Good morning, everybody. My name is Vilija Balionyte-Merle. I work at SINTEF Digital, located in Norway, and I'm the strategic coordinator of the RESIST project, and I will moderate this webinar. Today, we will dive in the topic of digital transition in climate change adaptation. We have prepared a very interesting program for you. We are going to present practical examples of digital transition in climate change adaptation, which are based on our work and outcomes in the two lighthouse projects funded by the EU frameworks. These two projects are RESIST and R4C. The agenda of this webinar you see here in the slide, and I will not go in details through it. So let's start with the first presentation, which is given by me, why RESIST is for you. RESIST is funded by the European Commission, the EU Mission Adaptation to Climate Change. It's a very large project with 60 organizations from the European Union, Norway, and Ukraine. There are more than 250 people behind this important partnership. The RESIST budget is almost 27 million euros, and we just started the third year of the project, having still a long way to go until its completion by the end of 2027. Due to its size and complexity, the project is jointly coordinated by two organizations, SINTEF and INOVA. Now, what is RESIST? RESIST aims to strengthen the resilience, accelerate the transformation, and increase adaptive capacity of climate-vulnerable regions in Europe. All 12 RESIST regions are shown in this slide. The project focuses on co-developing climate adaptation solutions, innovations, and technologies in 4 leading regions, or in other words, large-scale demonstrators. These are Southwest Finland, Central Denmark, Catalonia, and Central Portugal, that are shown in the upper layer of the figure. The leading regions transfer experience and know-how to aid less experienced or less resilient areas, so-called twinning regions. You will hear today about experiences from the leading region in Catalonia and from the twinning region in Blekinge. Why RESIST is for you? Without any doubt, climate change is already having wide-range consequences for human health, environment, and economies across Europe. The frequency and negative impact of hazardous events has increased. The regions are being challenged by floods, droughts, heat waves, wildfires, and soil erosion. And the pictures about these hazardous events and their effects are coming from the RESIST regions, and they are very recent. Therefore, twin transition, green and digital, is needed to prepare for and adjust to both the current effects of climate change and the predicted impacts of the future. To address climate change challenges, RESIST will demonstrate 100 new and innovative solutions. And these may be adaptation products, regulations, policies, and other types of solutions. These 100 solutions can be grouped into different categories, such as nature-based solutions, engineering, community engagement solutions, novel policy documents. The digital technologies take a very large place in RESIST, and you will hear about them today later. One of our ambition goals is to reach out 22 million citizens. Therefore, we openly share our knowledge, best practices, and results. Some of our work has been already made publicly available, and more will be published in the future. Collaboration is a very important element to reach a substantial and long-lasting impact. And I believe it's the most crucial aspect to demonstrate the solutions, transfer knowledge, exchange best practices, and also to sustain and scale up the solutions. RESIST collaboration is based on 4 levels. The first one, so-called internal level, is based on quintuple helix partners in the regions. It refers to academia, industry, government, public interactions within a knowledge economy in a sensitive way towards the environment. Our regional demonstrators are built following this quintuple helix model. As then the vertical level emphasizes the leading or more experienced regions and twinning regions collaboration. This collaboration resulted in 4 practical transfer plans, setting solid pathways to transfer and demonstration of novelties between the regions over the next 3 years. The horizontal level focuses on regional collaboration with transversal partners who contribute with their know-how in innovation, science, and technology, and force our climate adaptation efforts to become smarter, swifter, and more systemic. Finally, the multilateral collaboration spans broadly across European actors and initiatives. And today we are proud to announce that we are going to intensify our efforts at this 4th level for the next 3 years through various methods, including the community of interest, which we are launching today. So we do invite everybody to contribute to and benefit from RESIST. Now coming back to the digital transition and our digital solution. In this slide, you see a synthesis of the digital technologies to be presented today. It is being said that humans understand data 60 times faster in a visual format. It is an impressive number to consider. But it is not only one advantage of the digital twin technologies. The digital twin technologies help to increase a common understanding of possible effect of climate change, allow to present possible adaptation solutions in the virtual environments. The digital twin allows us to increase collaboration between the stakeholders and enables them to make better fact-based decisions in proposing climate adaptation solutions. So it helps us saving costs and implementing most effective measures. This technology will be developed for all 12 RESIST regions, considering their local and regional characteristics. Blekinge is a region in Sweden. In RESIST, it is a front-runner twinning region in developing and adopting the digital know-how. Blekinge sees a benefit in exploring the potential of extended and virtual reality to address different dimensions for transformative innovation, and you will hear their inspiring presentation today. Catalonia proposes real-time multi-hazard early warning tools. These novelties are specialized for pre-emergency management with the decision support digital tools. It includes risk communication as well as citizens' participation. So this is technology that is very handy in extreme weather conditions, which happens more and more often. Finally, you will get a glimpse to the interactive catalog of different climate change to adaptation solutions that have been already demonstrated in practice. This catalog is already made available online and is being continuously improved and enlarged, including more and more solutions for stakeholders' consideration, selection, and implementation. Before we take a deep dive in the digital solutions, I would like to remind you that we have time for your questions. To collect your questions, we are going to use a tool called Mentimeter. So now you have an opportunity to scan the QR code, enter the given number, and then we are looking forward hearing your comments, your feedback, and a suggestion on how we can improve. So I keep the slide a little bit that you all could scan the code and enter the number. We will repeat that slide later on. So now the next presentation comes from Scott, who works with Augment City, located in Norway. Scott will give you 2 presentations in a row. First, he's going to present how resist boost climate resilience with all interconnected digital solutions. And later he's going to present graphical digital twin solutions for planning and engagement. The floor is yours, Scott.
Thank you very much, Vilija, and good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. And hopefully you can all see that. Great, excellent. So good morning, everyone. My name's Scott Young. I am Head of Research and Design at Augment City, as Vilija said, based in Norway. So let's get my slide going. Okay, so how does RESIST boost climate resilience with interconnected digital solutions? For a moment, I just want to take a step back and examine the fundamentals in addressing climate risk, which we believe is communication. Any solution, digital or otherwise, needs to improve the communication of the risks and issues. Better communication naturally leads to an increase in greater understanding of that problem, and ultimately, one would hope, to a positive decision-making and finding ways of improving climate resilience. So how do we communicate better? How do we increase understanding? How do we improve that decision-making? Again, fundamentally, it's about taking the massive amount of complex data we have on climate change and connect that to the public in an easily understandable format. And as Vilija highlighted in an opening, in RESIST, we're using a range of digital solutions to communicate that complex data, and we will explore several of those today and how we create the new pathways. As Vilija said, ourselves, GTT, Beklinge's VR, XR solutions, and HYDS's early warning system. So how do these different technologies interconnect within RESIST to produce a unique solution for climate resilience? At the source, we have the data repository, which you'll hear more about later, and it's the main source of innovative CC solutions in RESIST, and Danny will talk about that in greater detail. At the other end, we have the communication tools, in this case, the graphical digital twin, which is one of the communication tools. But ours is the main visualization tool to show the pilot areas, the data, the problems, and solutions. In the past, with other projects, the biggest hindrance to a successful project delivery and uptake by users is transferring that data into the communication tools. Typically, that process has been carried out by a super user, someone normally who's employed by a municipality or an academic institute who specializes in the various tools being used. But the main question that became apparent to us in the RESIST team when examining this workflow is, what happens when that super user leaves the position? And this happens all the time. And when it does, that knowledge leaves with them, and the technologies in question become unused or eventually discarded. Our solution was to create a digital shepherd, a UX/UI interface that takes all the knowledge and expertise that normally resides within a super user and makes available to all users, guiding them through the process of getting data into the communication tools. By doing this, the shepherd interconnects the different technologies within RESIST and boosts the understanding and communication of climate resilience by increasing accessibility of the RESIST digital solutions. So that's just kind of a quick overview of how all the different technologies interconnect. And so I'll talk a little bit more now about the digital twin and how we use it for engagement and planning. Just want to take a quick step back. Some of you may know what a digital twin is and what it isn't, but just thought, what is it and why should we use it? So this graphic here, we have so much data we use. And humans don't intuitively understand it. We've got petabytes and petabytes of data of all areas of the globe. And machines are amazing at processing that data, but they're not creative. Humans are amazing at evaluating risk through visual input, but they can't process data at speed. So with graphical digital twins, we take all this abstract data, and it's incredibly complex, and we combine it with machines and make it a visual format that's quickly and easily understandable for humans. And as Vilija said, humans are better at understanding problems and issues better in a visual format, 60,000 times. It's a bit of a factoid, but it works. That's what we are. So RESIST, the graphical digital twins. As Vilija said, there's 12 regions involved. The project with 4 leading regions were shown in yellow, partnered with the 2 regions each shown in light blue. And all together, the area covered by the digital twins is equivalent to 3% of the EU territory. It was 84,000 square kilometres, so equivalent to the size of Greece. Working closely with the regions, our horizontal partner at Delphi collated the main climate risks affecting the regions. And this table is a distillation of those risks, ranging from drought, flooding to wildfires and marine ecosystems, and how each one of those affects each of the regions. As you can see, the main risk for the regions is flooding. And we focused on this issue as an exemplar for working with the regions and getting the data into the graphical digital twin. And we've now had flooding public demonstrations in 4 of the regions. So 4 of the regions have publicly demonstrated the twin. So in preparation of when people do a hosting of the twin, we created a playground scene. So the idea of the playground scene is people could learn how to use our tool. It was developed to give the resist regions and partners an opportunity to familiarise themselves with our software, including a variety of data sets, predefined scenarios, allowing them to explore the interface. And the idea was that they could play with a digital twin and not worry about breaking or making mistakes with their own regions. And this example here is Marco and Carl from Blekinge showing our digital twin on their amazing facilities in Blekinge. So what we try to do is we try to educate the regions before they actually go and do it themselves in their own regions. So we use the term playground to avoid the confusion with the public demonstrations. And the idea is that the regions would learn to play with the technologies and they better educate themselves, and then they're better to demonstrate them. So here, I'm not going to go through all the various points here, but here we're showing the process that was developed with the first group of regions when creating each of the digital twins. And during the process, our foremost thought was to ensure maximum engagement with the regions, but they shouldn't be overloaded in learning both software and trying to organise a public demonstration at the same time. So the majority of the background preparation work was done by ourselves to reduce that stress point. This process has worked really well. As I mentioned, 4 of the regions have so far demonstrated the graphical digital twin, and they've embraced the process and helped public demonstrations. And they've actually taken ownership of the technology, and that's really important and really encouraging as we go forward. And we're now rolling out this 12-step process with the remaining regions. And you can see the various points that we've gone through here as we kind of go through this process. So here are some examples of the technology that I've been talking about here. These are some of the demonstration regions. So on the top left-hand corner, we have Eastern Macedonia and Thrace, and they're particularly looking at flooding, how flooding affects that region there. And you can see the different colours showing the different depths of the flooding. And the red line around the area is marking the boundaries of the areas that they're questioning. So you've got the city centre, and then you've got the larger area. And we're just flying around, and we can get right down to the street level, and we can come up and get an overview and have a look at that. Central Denmark on the top right-hand corner is a bit more interesting. They're particularly concerned about flooding and flooding from the sea, but actually coming up through the ground and saturating the ground. And so they have these water loggers which are measuring the saturation of that water in the ground. And what you're seeing is bar graphs that are giving results over a period of time, saying how much water is in the ground at this point. So the flooding's not coming directly from the sea, but it's coming from underneath. And that's obviously a big concern as we have the climate changing more. And then we have Blekinge here on the bottom left, and what they're showing is flooding in their area. And Marco will go into this much greater detail later on. But again, like Eastern Macedonia and Thrace, you're seeing the different kind of flooding. You're seeing the different issues of the depths of the flooding, what areas are particularly affected. And then Southwest Finland in the bottom right, there's a bit more of a different case, and what they're concerned about is the flooding capacity of the drainage system in the area. And again, you can see the outline marked of the areas in question. And again, we're coming up very high, and we're showing up a very large area in question. And they have like 3 pilot sites, which you're seeing here. So this just gives you a small taste of what the twin is used for, and it's constantly improving. And it'll be interesting as we move forward and look at the other climate risks, how we visualize those and communicate that to the public. So I just want to kind of lastly touch on what we do as well about communicating. We've talked about visualizing, and also talking about engaging. This is important. So when we engage visually, there's different ways of communication. So this is from the playground scene that I mentioned earlier. And you can see the terrain here, and you can see the landscape and the white colored buildings. But what we try to do is we try to change the texture underneath, so people can maybe sometimes better understand what's going on, and we can flip between different things. And what we try to do is, with the tool, we have the ability to add comments and notes within the tool. So here you can see we've added a few notes, and they're color coded depending on the people who have made those notes. So blue could be the municipality, green could be a member of the public, and red could be a specialist service. And within that, when you click on it, you can see different comments, and it's a bit like Word. You can add comments and reply to those comments, and you can add images or web links, etc. So the idea is that rather than just being a unilateral means of communication where people present the issue, what we're doing here in Resist is we're trying to make it bi-directional, where people can actually add comments and be able to feed back into us, which then feeds back to municipalities and those who are making the decisions affecting the climate risk. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Scott. As I told already, we have a short slot for your questions at the end of all the presentations. Now the next presenter is Konstantinos from SINTEF, also located in Norway. And Konstantinos is going to dive into digital shepherd, guiding through complexity. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, all. My name is Konstantinos Boletsis. I'm a researcher at SINTEF Digital, and I'm going to present a component of the Resist graphical digital twin ecosystem. Scott also touched upon the subject here. So we call it the digital shepherd, and it was developed as a middle layer between the sources, the data sources that we're having in the project, and the visualization layer, the graphical digital twin. And the idea, as Scott mentioned earlier, is to respect all kinds of technical expertise, so that not only technical experts can visualize data into the graphical digital twin. So it addresses the regional users, and it helps them find, transform, and prepare the data in order to upload them into the graphical digital twin and visualize them. The goal is to have a user-friendly, very simplistic user interface in order to provide training information about the digital twin, to provide guidance about what kind of data formats the digital twin uses. It's built to enable the users to onboard data, to upload data related to climate risk scenarios, and finally it stores everything into a project database. It's structured as an 8-step form, and it features a database for storing the credentials of the users and the datasets. The overall vision of the digital shepherd, of this middle layer, is to become the first important step when a region representative wants to access the Resist graphical digital twin ecosystem. Now I'm going to mention a little bit of the initial stages for its design. So at first, we formed some functional and non-functional requirements that mostly come out of a needs assessment document that Adelphi had formulated a while ago. So we took that as starting material, and we start building requirements on usability, user management, how we do data filtering, how we guide the user, how we connect with the APIs, and we're going to address the scalability of this layer. Then we created personas and user journeys so that we better have an idea of how this whole workflow will work. And finally, we created user interface mockups. Here on the right, you can see a very early one that we used to structure the whole SEPART as a single page, a single page form. But later on, with the amount of information that we had to gather, that became a little bit more complex. So in order to address that complexity, we followed the top-down approach. So we filter the content starting from a general category and moving down to the specific data that needs to be visualized. We have like a substantial amount of content in there, like information about the digital twin, how it works, videos, how the user can prepare the data, how they can submit the data. So all this fit into this top-down approach. And right now I'm going to demonstrate you a little bit, like briefly, how the user interface works and how this multi-step, how we go through this multi-step form. So here you see the landing page is quite simple. Every region has its own username and password. So in a very simplistic way, they can log in. Then we go into like a user information, which is for statistical purposes. We just gather information about if it's their first time using the SEPART and what's the purpose. And then we're moving into the basic material, like the location. So far we have like 5 locations. So as an example, I've chosen like Blekinge. Then we're like going a little bit more specific into the climate risk scenario that we want to see visualized. Again, up to now we have flooding, like hydrological impacts, and then after that going a little bit more specific into the technology that we want to use for the data to be visualized. And we have the Augment City graphical digital twin that Scott presented earlier. Here we have some textual information as well as links to videos with tutorials. Then we're moving into like the main part of the digital SEPART, which is the data preparation. So how like a user, and it doesn't have to be a technical expert, how a user can prepare data for the Augment City graphical digital twin. Here, when the user clicks yes, then we have like a list of templates for the graphical digital twin, and we have the connection to the resist repository made by KU Leuven. So here you can gain access to multiple data sources. And also we provide some online editing tools in case people want to do the whole process online. Then we're moving into the data submission form, which is a simple upload form. At the same time, for privacy purposes, we will also support the submission of data by URLs. So that if people want to host the data on their own servers. And then here we select the data. If the graphical digital twin and Augment City's twin does that, support multi-layer visualization, then they can pick several files, several data files. And then you can see that after clicking next to next, it ended up into the dataset library of Augment City, meaning that now it can be visualized. Then we also have like an API running on Fast API for we use that to connect to the Augment City's graphical digital twin, and it can be used for other technologies to connect to the SEPART as well. And overall, the digital SEPART is a practical, useful platform that is tailored specifically for the needs of resist so far. Still at the prototype stage, so we're working actively on that, and we have a lot of things to do, like around debugging, optimization of the login process. We have to take care of the API, content filtering. We will open source it, so it will be publicly available. And definitely we will introduce more content when it comes to locations and more climate risk scenarios, technologies, and datasets. The potential of the digital shepherd beyond the scope of the RESIST project is to have a user-friendly introduction portal and data onboarding tool for a multi-GTT environment. So thank you very much for your attention, and for any questions, please use Mentimeter or Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kostas, for your very insightful presentation. Now, to the audience, you have heard the presentations given from a perspective of technology developers, solution developers. The next presentation is given by Marco and Johan, coming from Blekinge, Sweden, and that also will highlight the regional perspective to the digital technologies and climate change adaptation. Marco.
Hi, welcome everybody. Hi, welcome everybody. So my name is Marco Bertoni, and I'm professor at Blekinge Institute of Technology. So we are basically a technical partner in RESIST, and we are working in very close collaboration with the region of Blekinge, or the county of Blekinge. So many of you, maybe they don't know about the county of Blekinge, where that is located. So in this picture, you see more or less the contours of our region. So we are located in the southeastern part of Sweden, very close to Denmark. And we are facing quite a lot of challenges because of this particular location. So Blekinge is not a big region. We have 160,000 people, more or less, but we are basically 80% of the population is living at least at maximum 5 kilometers from the coast. And this poses a lot of challenges. So one challenge is related to sea level rising. So sea level rise is not just about the average sea level rising, but for us is a lot about high tide events. So there has been quite a lot of storms in the last few years that have shown the gravity and the problems related to high tide. And what you see on screen are the projections for what are called the 50-year events or the 100-year events. So there are projections saying that the water will rise more than 2 meters in some particular locations. And this poses a lot of challenges for a region like that, which is in this particular location. So there are more challenges, in fact, and Scott in the presentation before was talking about flooding. So the region is crossed by major rivers, 2 of them that are in the municipalities of Karlskrona and Karlshamn. They are at high risk of flooding, and high risk of flooding is not me from university saying that, but it's basically the Civil Protection Agency in Sweden mapping and presenting data in relation to the gravity of this risk. So we have more challenges, for instance, drought, which is totally the opposite of flooding, but still we have a very good example from 2018 where it didn't rain, for instance, for 3 months. And so we are working quite a lot in the frame of RESIST in order to be able to make people aware of the risk and consequences related to these events and to climate change in general. But not only that, we are working on a very, very specific topic, which is basically how to create and to design extended reality and virtual reality experiences supported typically by digital twin to raise understanding, but also to assess the value of different adaptation strategies. So you see here a small picture about 4 different strategies, and this is taken from one of the documents that I referred before in my slides. So what should we do in order to prepare Blekinge when climate change becomes more than just a threat, but a reality? Should we retreat? Should we attack? Should we defend? How can we use XR to make people aware about what the best strategy is? So why are we focusing on XR? And this boils down essentially to 2 documents, 2 inputs. So one is the work that is currently going on at regional level in relation to the EU mission adaptation to climate change, but also in Blekinge, we have a strategy for smart specialization, which includes the ability of developing and implementing these advanced technologies in order to be able to raise awareness, prepare ourselves, adapt, and act and take decisions. So I just want to show you a little bit in this presentation how, from a technical part perspective, can we work to systematically design these value-adding XR experiences. And in order to work systematically, we started from the beginning to think about clusters and categories, and thinking about what is important to consider when you design an XR solution in order to raise awareness, in order to adapt, mitigate, and prepare. So we started from the beginning thinking about, okay, we have, I don't know, an Oculus Quest 3 device on our table, but what's the function that you want to achieve with that type of device? What's the function of experience in general? And the function is typically along a line between two extremes, that is raising awareness, preventing disruptions, preventing catastrophic damages related, for instance, to a flooding, but also be able to adapt, to respond to a disruption. And we have been looking at solution experiences able to address all the problems and all the decisions that are related to these two extremes. We have been looking also at who are we targeting, and here we find basically two different targets, which are the citizens and the decision makers. So this diagram that you see here is a way for us to understand how to develop these experiences to make to create value and to create the best value as possible in this environment. But also from a technical partner perspective, and we are a university, a technical institution, we have been looking at, okay, what are the mechanisms for co-production? And here in the framework Resist, we have been working both with research, but also involving students. And we are working quite a lot, both with research projects and student projects. Student projects that has been used very much to create a critical mass of projects where to extract learnings and lesson learned, but also in order to, they work quite well as a Trojan horse with different institutions and decision makers to start test ideas and work forward with that in research. I want to show you some examples how we work with both levels, with students and research. And in the framework Resist, we have been conducting quite a lot of studies regarding how to develop these XR experiences, typically in relation to raise awareness among citizens and decision makers about the risk related to climate change. So here I put some dots on the map just to show you where the focus lies typically when we work with students in this respect. And we have mostly been focused on the issue of water level rising. And here we work with different types of strategies and different types of experiences. I made a summary, a pretty visual one in the next slide. So we have developed different solutions that are the classical first-person experiences in VR, where a person can immerse itself or herself inside an environment and see the consequences, for instance, related to water level rising of a few meters or many meters or a few centimeters. So the idea is to be able to walk into an environment and have a perception, what does it mean, water level rising? But it didn't stop there. When we talk about experiences, we've been working quite a lot also with gamification of experience to make people informed and aware by having fun. And what you see on screen is an example of a very, very short video game that was designed for tourists and citizens for a very, very short time span. It's lasts for 80 seconds. And the idea was to replicate 80 years of water level rising in 80 seconds. And the overall goal of the experience was to escape of a museum that was flooding. So the purpose of this game is different from the first example because this was intended to attract people to try out and as a side effect, be informed about climate change. We have had more examples in relation to how to boost traditional media, for instance, using augmented reality, and it is very much related to the ability of making citizen science out of these technical innovations. So in the picture you see here, it's a demo that we have tried and deployed quite a lot, and it has been quite successful, in fact, among politicians and civil servants. So the idea of having the possibility with a tablet to visualize the very nitty-gritty details of a proposals related, for instance, to a climate adaptation solution that the municipality or the region wants to deploy in a particular location, and have the citizens to go and check with very, with very good granularity, the details of a proposal and give feedback through the app. Or we have also worked a lot with the educational part in order to instruct people what is the meaning of climate change and seawater rising. And I mean, typically focusing on things that are a little bit less evident. And here we also work with the development of environments where the physical interaction with a device is mixed with a virtual experience, which is educating people. So this is just a quick overview of that part. But research-wise, all these projects, they have been basically used, as said, as Trojan horse in order to get into more detailed demos where we tested and tried different things. And these research demos are very much focused on what we presented in the beginning, flooding and threat from sea level rising, but also drought. And I can show you some videos of what we have been doing. And some of these demos are very much linked and realized with the help of Augment City through the graphical digital twin. I can show you some examples. A demo that we have been working with quite a lot in the beginning of Resist was related to the ability to show people the meaning of seawater rising, taking a place that we care about, taking a place that we experience every day, taking a place that people enjoy, and show the consequences of sea level rise for that particular location. So the beginning of Resist, we didn't start actually from Blekinge, we started from another town in the south of Sweden, the town of Malmö, and we developed an environment on this beach that you see here, because it's a very tourist magnet during the summer, and we wanted to show people the effect of climate change in a very, very popular tourist destination. And the idea here was to essentially, and I take out the audio of the video, to develop an XR environment where people could explore beyond the beach in 20 years from now, 50 years from now, or 100 years from now, with the possibility to play a little bit with the different scenarios in relation to the different predictions for water levels in that particular location. So you see my colleague Julia now in the video, which is walking around the beach with a water level of 1.5 meters above average. And the idea was to let people to try out, play a little bit with environment, but also be informed about the consequences, the first-person consequences related to climate change. So more examples have been developed in the domain of flooding. So why flooding has been so important in Resist is typically because all the news that we heard about during last year and the disasters that have happened a little bit all around the world. So, and in the last few days, I've also been opening up parentheses about flooding events that are happening right now around the world. And to be honest, I discovered that flooding is happening basically every day. So the 5th of March was a flood in Indonesia. 6th of March, saw pictures from Spain, San Diego on the 7th of March, Brisbane, it was flooded on the 8th and 9th of March, Ecuador on the 10th, Argentina on the 11th, and today also Italy is under a flooding threat. And people don't realize how dangerous and how often and how predictably flooding can happen. And we have been using XR and VR in order to raise awareness on one end of the consequences of flooding in our region, and also to make them aware of what flooding really means. So from the point of view of informing people of the specific problems and specific risks related to flooding, we have been using the graphical digital twin, and this is a video that shows a map of the city of Karlskrona, and in particular a map of different levels of water in the Lyckebyen, which is basically the Lyckeby river that flows through the town. Different colors relate to different levels of water that are predicted for a 50 years event. And many people don't realize how their house is basically affected, and this is a very good tool to make them understand the potential risks. We notice by using that a little bit more visual way would have been very useful. So we have been doing a couple of things. First of all, we have taken the simulations from a very small screen to a very large location, which is essentially a location that is used for film production that we have here at our university. And the idea here was to use the graphical digital twin to be able to explore on a large scale what flooding happens. So what you see here is my boss at the university looking at a flooding risk close to his house. And not only that, we have been using that location in order to be able to understand the impact of different structures in order to prevent flooding. What you see on screen is a proposal. We saw a wall around the town. I think I go back a little bit, which is intended to stop water from flooding the island of Trossö in the city of Karlskrona. So that was added on the top of the graphical digital twin provided by Augment City in order to be able to visualize not only the look and feel of this type of solution in order to prevent flooding, but also to evaluate some costs and more in relation to different types of proposals. We can swap a design towards another one and make a decision maker to evaluate what solution will actually work best. And this approach was used in order to raise awareness even more about the risks related to flooding, to get a little more touch feel of what that really means. Nowadays, we are looking more also into hyper-realistic visualizations of flooding. So another demo resist is related to this particular video, which is not a real video, but it basically shows a simulated video in the Unreal Engine of the consequences of a very big flooding event in the main square of the city of Karlshamn here in Blekinge. And that was actually used in order to raise people awareness of the real consequences related to flooding. And this layer is something that in the future we want to add on the top of a graphical digital twin to be able to make people really aware about the risks related to that. So there is another aspect in relation to the work we do in Resist. This is about raising awareness, but what about taking actions? If something like this happen, if we flood a town and the event is pretty, it's pretty bad, as you see in the picture, how do we act? Something that we are looking also inside in the frame of Resist is evacuation. So we all know about probably about the flood in Valencia in November. We probably saw pictures in October about Hurricane Milton in Florida and how people were fleeing in Florida because of this very particular event. So we are also working with a demo, which is basically very much related to simulating how people should leave their homes and should leave their towns. And in collaboration also with the civil protection agency, Resist is working on simulation and simulating how people should actually escape a situation which is very much related to climate crisis. What you see in the videos are two different examples of results of something like that. We're working simulations in order to understand, in case of a climate emergency, how should we plan the evacuation? What are the pros and cons of different strategies? What is the pro of a strategy where we want to minimize traffic queuing, for instance, versus a strategy where we let people just to go wherever they want and follow the road, which is the most popular. All of that is related to XR and advanced technologies because of this facility, which is the Virtual Production Studio Lab that we have here at BTH. This is, as I said, used a lot for movie production, but we use it also to display visualization models. And there is a very good picture from Scott in relation to the use of this facility to visualize the city of Ålesund. So we use this facility to invite politicians, to invite civil servants, to display the models and to make them evaluate different adaptation strategies. And there are more on the table. There are many more things that we have been doing, but I will cut things short in order to explain a little bit what's more about developing the demo. So developing a demo is step number one. Then we need to reach out to people, show them the demo, test them, evaluate, and of course, taking the demo and improve on them. And the main mechanism that we are trying nowadays in collaboration with Region Blekinge is called the Climate Tech Tour pop-up. So this is a picture that we took during summertime and is a tent right now that is deployed at different events that involves politicians, civil servants, and different institutions, where we make them to try out this type of solutions in order to be able to collect feedback about how useful they are and how should we develop them further. And here you see different examples of people and typically politicians and project owners trying out this type of demos and giving a feedback about what we want to see developed in the next round in generation number 2 and generation number 3. So this has been deployed already 2 times and is going to be deployed at least 5-6 times this year to gather feedback and lesson learned and best practices for how to use XR tools. And when it comes down to collecting and packaging these best practices, we are working on a tool inside Resist, which has this very much objectives, very important objective of collecting everything we have been doing. Because you saw we are working quite a lot with this idea of quantity over quality right now, but this is very much needed in order to be able to explore something that is a little bit of an uncharted territory, the use of XR for communication. And once we have a very good picture about what works and what doesn't work, we are going to populate this concept, this service that we are developing right now, which is called XR Pathfinder, which is very much thought as a personal compass for selecting XR tools for a particular situation, for a particular role, for a particular problem one might have. And this idea of XR Pathfinder is to develop, as I said, a service that could be accessed by different institutions, by different roles and different key persons in order to understand, okay, what is the best way to use XR in order to get the job done inside a particular situation or a problem you might have. So thank you very much. I will stop now, and it was a lot of meat on the fire, and I give the word to Vilija for next round.
Thank you, Marco, for your very powerful presentation. I am sure the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. You already touched upon that digital technologies can help in climate emergencies. So here is the next presenter, Xavi from HYDS from Catalonia, Spain, and he's going to introduce early warning systems for climate-induced hazards. Javi.
Thank you, thank you, everybody. I think that you are already seeing my screen, if I'm not wrong. And here I will present a slightly different digital approach also to deal with or to adapt ourselves to climate change. And in this case, it's much focused on dealing with the emergencies that we are already facing. So I will talk a little bit about these early warning systems and decision support systems for climate-induced hazards. And what's behind is that we know that climate change will increase the severity and the frequency of all weather-related hazards. So not only flooding, but also forest fires, wind situation, storm surges, a snow situation, or air pollution. So different weather-related hazards will become more strong and more frequent. And this is a thing that we are already facing. So it's nothing new. Several presentations before this one already show that like the previous one, that every day there are news on the newspapers or on the TV that somewhere they are facing a flood or they are facing some specific weather-related event. So here what we're trying to do is in parallel to those long-term mitigation actions, put in place some systems that help us deal with the emergencies that we are already facing. And in this case, what we try is to switch the traditional way of dealing with this emergency, that is a reactive way. So usually usually or traditionally the first responders and civil protections, when they know about the impact of those events, they put in place the different actions or they trigger the mitigation actions that they can. Here, what we try is to switch to a more proactive way. So if we know in advance which can be the impact of those weather-related emergencies, we can trigger some actions to mitigate this impact. So here in this Resist project, we are working on a platform that we call Argos. That the idea is that it's a combination of an early warning system, so a system that provides you anticipation to the impact of those weather-related hazards, and a decision support system. So something that is on your side on the management of these events to help you to take better decisions or more informed decisions. The idea is that it's a system, cloud-based, that collects different kinds of information, not only local, but regional, national, or even pan-European information. It crosses different kinds of information like hazard, vulnerability, and provides visualization of all this information, plus warnings, plus advice on how to, let's say, deal with these emergencies. It looks like this. It's the web-based system. It can be accessed by any device connected to internet. All these screenshots are from a computer, but it also works from mobile phones or tablets, or can be put in a big screen in control centers. And it has we try to cover all the chain of value in the emergency management. So we start by everything related with the hydrometeorological observations and forecasts. So we collect data at all scales. So for example, we are connected to the Copernicus emergency management system. This Copernicus system from the European Union that provides pan-European products to help the different civil protections. For example, IFAS, the European Flood Awareness System, that is information and early warning related to floods. EFIS, European Forest Fire Information System, that provides information or different indexes about forest fire, let's say, risk at each moment, etc. So we connect to the European ones, to national ones, for example, radar networks or sensor networks from the different meteorological agencies, to also regional and local. So in this case of Resist, we are applying this system at different scales, from a regional one at the level of all Catalonia to a more local one in different municipalities. And we connect to different specific sensors that those municipalities have in their area to collect this more local information about the meteorological variables, hydrological variables, and the forecast for the next hours or days. The second point is we go more to hazard forecast. So not only, let's say, forecasting the meteorological variable or the physical variable, but going more into the hazard. For example, this image is a product for flash floods. Flash floods is the typical flood that in the Mediterranean area mainly where we are facing, that it's not like riverine floods in the north that take days and it's more predictable. In this case, it's everything happening very quick. So in the morning there is sun, and in the afternoon it comes a storm, there is a flash flood, and in the evening you have again a good day. So this is a product that uses weather radar and rain gauges to forecast which are the streams that can be activated or that they will have increased, let's say, the activity in the next minutes or hours. So we are going from this observation and forecast of hydrometeorological variables to a forecast of the different hazards. Then we are connecting this hazard forecast with the impact. So what do we have on the territory that might be impacted by these hazards? And this can cover all areas. So the first thing is to know population. Which is the population that can be impacted for a given flash flood, or a population that can be impacted for a storm surge. but then can also go to more critical infrastructure elements or economic activities or different assets that we have on the territory. And we try to go to this level of detail. So once there is an event, not only saying about the let's say, observations and forecasts of the meteorological part, but the hazard and the impact, which are the different elements, activities, population that can be impacted by these ongoing weather events. And the last one is that we are linking these forecasts of impact at element with the protocols and the actions that we want to trigger. So if we know in advance, for example, that a given stream will rise its level, and we know that there is a ford crossing this stream, maybe the police can go there and just put something to block the cars crossing it. Or if we know in advance that there is a heat wave and we know that the critical elements, maybe it's the elderly population that lives alone, maybe social services can start doing or activating their protocols to mitigate the impact. So this last step is probably the most important one, that is linking this early warning on the specific activities with the actions that we can trigger to mitigate the impact. And what we try to do here in RESIST is to cover all the chain. So not only focusing on data or sensors or a specific algorithm, but trying to cover from the very beginning with observation to the implementation of the actions that can mitigate the impact. And as I told this in RESIST, we are doing at two levels. One level is at regional level. And then the more challenging one, that is the one that we are tackling in RESIST, is how to bring this emergency management or weather-related emergency management to a smaller level, to a detailed level in the different municipalities. And here we have two municipalities that are somehow front runners, that is Tarrasa and Blanes. And then we have a second part, replication phase, that we already started in Alcanar, and we will replicate on different municipalities on the area of Catalonia. And later on also to the twinning regions of the project. And here I put a couple of examples. One example is from this one that you are seeing, that is from the regional authority, that in this case, this is the south of Catalonia. This is the Delta Ebro, the Ebro River Delta that goes into the Mediterranean. And we had last year at the end of November, in the middle of November, an event that affected those areas. This is, for example, the precipitation forecast as seen from the radars. And here also we have already the impact, for example, people calling 112 that they are having problems with flooding. And in this case, for example, this system that triggered or issued these early warnings on those two municipalities, Alcanar and Idacona, allowed the authorities to analyze the situation and trigger the ES alert, that is this massive mobile broadcasting system, to push a warning to the population in this area to take some self-protection actions in advance. So in this case, let's say allowed reducing the risk, so less people was driving on the affected roads, or less people was on the street. People living on the low basements moved to the upper floors. So they, in this case, was a success case in the sense that the system allowed the people on SECAT analyze the situation, and they decided to push this message to the people to prepare in advance to this situation. The second one is in Tarrasa, that is one of the pilots of these front-runner municipalities in RESIST. And this is an example in a storm that happened this summer. It has not big impacts, but several basements flooded and some areas or some economic activities closed for a while. And again, the system issued some early warnings on the different, in this case, Tarrasa defined some specific places that they want to take into account, because there are there are people crossing the smaller streams, and they want to close this crossing path in advance, and also some critical points that they know that typically when there are those events, there are problems there. So in this case, the system allowed to issue these early warnings and allowed the managers to analyze the situation and trigger the actions to mitigate the impact. Those are just two recent examples. If you want, now there is a very new resist story on the website. If you have time, here there is the link, or you can go to the resist website and go to the resist stories, and you will see that there is one talking about this system, giving a little bit more details that in this presentation, and providing some examples. And that's all. I'm able to respond any question if you have one later in the question and answer section. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xavi, for your very interesting presentation. So far, we have heard about digital twin technology that is mostly used for planning, anticipation of climate hazards, on how to prepare better, and also about emergency warning systems that are helpful to act when the climate hazards are here and now. So now the next actually presentation is a little bit broader. It's going to present interactive metadata catalog for climate adaptation solutions. And this catalog is going to present a wide range of different solutions, not only the digital ones. Dani and Vida, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
I will go in presentation mode. Okay, I will first introduce the setting and why we are doing this, and then Vida, my colleague, will take over. So first I give this introduction, and then we will zoom in on the metadata catalog or repository and how innovative solutions can be entered in this catalog, zooming in then in the third section on a practical example and also ideas for future improvements. If we speak about innovative solutions for climate change adaptation, of course, we can think about many different issues. Here are a few examples on interventions in the field to try to adapt and even also help to mitigate climate change. These are local examples from a city where you can think about the implementation of green roofs, unsealing of soils like tile breaking, as you can see here, greening the city, putting a rain garden in your garden to help manage better the water. And of course, usually this is not meant for answering a particular challenge or one challenge. Usually you support different ecosystem services, like you might have an impact with these interventions on biodiversity, on water retention, on pollination, on better capturing CO2, improve the air quality, etc., etc. So we have kind of in Resist holistic approach, and in the regions, and you saw some examples. Maybe some of them are focusing on water management and flooding and risks, particular risks, but usually in different solutions, you tackle different aspects. What is important is, of course, the human factor. Is you mobilize stakeholders, you work with stakeholders, you communicate with stakeholders. You have seen the different examples, why the tools, but also the interventions in the different regions collaborate with stakeholders to have a good design, good decisions, to have better monitoring, to have better understanding, to create awareness, etc., etc. And hence, therefore, we decided not only to focus on positive interventions in the field. These remain very important. You have heard about nature-based solutions, ecosystem-based approaches. For example, of the solutions that are in the catalog already is two-stage ditch development for better water management. But also it might be physical and technological solutions like these early warning systems on extreme weather events. You just saw the example, but also solutions that are focusing more on knowledge and behavioral change, on stakeholder engagement and collaboration, co-creation, co-design. But even going further, like looking into how you better can govern or have institutional approaches to tackle the issue. For example, the blue-green factor as a policy tool, a tool to develop and support policy and decision-making, and even economic aspects. So that are the 5 categories that we have retained in economic and financial strategies. For example, an innovative solutions to implement it in the field, in the region. What is the cost to do so, but what also will be the gains and the benefits of doing so. So it's a kind of holistic approach. And if we speak about this catalog of innovative solutions, it's not only about intervention in the fields, it's not only about the technologies, it's about different aspects. And we have described already many of them, and Vida will zoom in on those a little bit later. So the metadata catalog on climate change adaptation solutions is kind of, let's say, we call it a structured way to collect, organize, and provide access to meta information about these solutions. Because many regions, many cities, in many projects, people are looking to implement solutions and they might be interested to know what happens somewhere else. So the catalog and also the system built around it should facilitate this discovery to find the relevant solution easily, but also to group and structure the information in a standardized way so that you can compare also what's happening in different regions. You want also to make sure that the information is interoperable, that you can easily exchange information or have access to the information and even to the technologies, the tools, the algorithms, or whatsoever the models that are used. And then, of course, it's also a question of knowledge transfer to use this catalog to better understand who is doing what, how you should understand it, but maybe also to connect to particular regions or organizations that are working on a particular solution. So how it works in RESIST, so this metadata catalog stores structured information about these climate adaptation solutions, giving particular information on the solution type, the location, the goal, why do we do this solution, and the supported ecosystem services. And then it provides also a direct link to data and technologies that are used to implement the solution, to monitor the solution, to improve the solution. And this is what was mentioned in previous interventions. We don't store the data, we don't store the tools themselves, but we give links to the various platforms and directly to the tools, and even in some cases directly to the data themselves that are used to support these innovative solutions. And then we have a graphical user interface that for end users that can use it to search, filter, and visualize the catalog interactively. And with that, I will hand over, and Vida will say me that I have to go to the next slide because she will zoom in now on the catalog itself.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Danny. And can you please just go to the next slide? This slide illustrates the structure of the metadata catalog and its attributes through a flowchart. So at the top level, we have the region, which includes details like the region name, a specific hazard, and geographic extent. For each solution, the metadata records name and description, goal it addresses, ecosystem services it supports, and whether it's part of RESIST or beyond RESIST, and its current status of the solution. Associated with each solution, we also manage data with attributes such as type, format, and a link to access to the data, and also tools, platforms, and technologies detailing their name, description, and link for direct access. Next, please. So here's how the solution entry process works in the metadata catalog. So first, we identify the solution based on its region. We start by figuring out whether the solution is located, where the solution is located, and what region it belongs to. Next, we collect all the relevant information. This includes pulling data from regional sources or reports from the project itself. Then we explore standardized vocabularies that I'm going to explain later on. So we make sure to categorize the solution using these established vocabularies to maintain consistency. Once we have all the data, we store it in a form. So this form lets us easily update and add new solutions as we go, we move on. We also gather additional data and tools associated with the solution from regional sources and national portals. So these extra resources help enrich the catalog. After that, we classify the data according to standards like Inspire, GeoPortal. So this ensures everything is properly organized and consistent with international standards. Then we store everything in the metadata catalog. This is where all the data is kept for easy access. Next, we convert it into JSON format. So this format is what we use to populate the content in the graphic user interface. Once that's done, we visualize everything in the graphic user interface. So users can search and explore the catalog, finding solutions quickly and easily. Finally, we link the solutions to their geographic delineation and digital twin. So this makes it more interactive and lets users see the solution in context alongside its digital representation of the solution itself. So please, next slide, Danny. So I'd like to give you an example of a solution from the metadata catalog. This nature-based solution is called the multi-beneficial water retention plan and includes 2-stage ditches, which is located in a large-scale demonstrator 1, southwestern Finland. The pilot site is in the Savioki River catchment. Next, please. So this is the pilot site is river catchment. This solution involves monitoring for hydrological modeling, developing a water management plan with a local input, and also implementing measures like the 2-stage ditches to help reduce flooding and nutrient runoff into the sea. So these screenshots display the information received from regional questionnaire on the top, and also needs assessments conducted by our partner Adelphi. Next, please. We then classify the solution type using key type measure, as shown on the slide, and link it to the supported ecosystem services based on the common international classification of ecosystem services. And additionally, we categorize the solution goals, as you can see, the solution goals classification in the slide, which in this case includes flood prevention, hydrological balance, and erosion reduction, and also pollution reduction. Next, please. Here you see the catalog form with the collected information about the solution that I talked about. And the next step was to gather associated data and tools and technologies. So on the slide, you'll see the list of tools categorized by region, and along with the weather portal of Finland that was utilized to gather the data and also tools and platform for that specific solution. To ensure consistency, we organize this data according to the Inspire GeoPortal that you'll see in the slide. Next. Finally, we link the metadata to a visualization to a visualized tool. So as shown in the screenshot at the top, you can see this is the graphic user interface. And we use the metadata catalog as the content and as a feeding to this graphic user interface, so making it searchable and also accessible for the user. And at the bottom, you see the geographic delineation of the solution and also its digital twin, so enable users to interactively explore the solution, assess its impact, and analyze different scenarios for informed decision making. And next slide, please. So this is the screenshot of the visualization tool of solutions. On the left side, you'll find filtering options that allow users to query specific solutions, data, and tools. In the center, the map displays icons indicating the location of solutions in the region. On the right side, you see there is a list of solutions with name, description, and icons showing the associated data and tools. I need to mention that in this time, we have just the location of the solutions as a point, but the aim is to link the location to the delineation of the solution so the user can have a clear idea about the solution. And next, please. Regarding the future improvement, we are focusing on 3 key areas. So the catalog will be regularly updated with new data, insights, and with new solutions, ensuring it stays relevant and useful for adaptation strategies. And we also aim to integrate automated data extraction like web scraping to automatically pull data from sources like the Urban Nature Atlas. So this allows us to go beyond RECIST and expand beyond the RECIST project and bring in a wider range of solutions. And finally, a dynamic metadata form. So this will allow users to directly add and update solutions through an interactive form. So the best part is that these updates will be reflected automatically without requiring manual changes to the database. So that is my last slide. Thank you for your attention. So if you have any question later on, yeah, you can ask. Thank you. And I hand over to Vilija.
Dani and Vida, thank you for excellent presentation and specifically for preparing and showing us a catalog where we can find a variety of solutions developed by RECIST and not only the RECIST project. Before we go to the next and the last presentation, I would like to show you the Mentimeter, because we are still looking for your questions. And here's just a reminder. The questions can be sent using Mentimeter. Scan QR code and enter the number. And then we are looking really for interactions with you. So now Carmen and Adrian, they are going to make the last presentation of today. And this presentation comes from our sister project, Regions4Climate, with whom we collaborate very closely. The presentation is going to be about urban heat islands modeling. So now I stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Vilija. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be here today. My name is Carmen Antuña, and I'm the coordinator of Regions4Climate, like Vilija explained, RECIST sister project. And I'd like to introduce you to the work that 3 of our regions are doing related to urban heat island modeling. Next, please. So Burgas in Bulgaria, Helsinki-Uusimaa in Finland, and Pärnumaa in Estonia are simultaneously applying and evaluating different methodologies for urban heat islands and at the same time exploring their complementarity so that then they can inform regional policies and urban design. Next, please. Tecnalia from Spain is coordinating the work, which involves regular meetings to ensure alignment, discuss different approaches, and also share preliminary results as progress is made. Next, please. The results and conclusions of the work will be presented in one of our key deliverables, which will describe the methodologies in detail. And in addition to that, a technical summary and a scientific article are being discussed. All of these will be made available as soon as they are ready to be shared. So now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Adrian Glodeanu from Tecnalia, who is coordinating the modeling work. So Adrian, go ahead.
Thank you, Carmen, for the introduction. So my name is Adrian. I work in Tecnalia in the part of thermal modeling comfort, and I will be guiding you through the rest of the presentation. As Carmen said, we have 3 regions in Bulgaria, Finland, and Estonia. And when I will be presenting each case, we will have this chart representing the scale and resolution, indicator and model used, and the applicability of limitations of each case. So the first case is Burgas, a region in the eastern part of Bulgaria. As cities are heating up, the urban heat island effect is one of the most pressing challenges in urban climate research today. Burgas understood that, and they worked with the University of Sofia to develop a joint methodology. This was based on unmanned aerial systems, GIS, and local climate zones. First, unmanned aerial systems provide a powerful tool for capturing high-resolution thermal imagery. The integrated thermal and photogrammetric sensor that you can see in the photos allow the creation of thermal mosaic with high spatial accuracy and resolution. After planning the missions and collecting the data, it is processed in GIS and different products are obtained. Besides, data calibration is done, and in the end, local climate zones are used to calculate indicators. Within this step, the urban heat island is also calculated. So to show you some results of the study in Burgas, we can start with the LSCT, the land surface temperature map. As we can see in the image, there are a lot of possibilities to analyze important details of heating in the local urban fabric. Second, the city of Burgas obtained also the cooling effect of different types of vegetation. Third, as I said before, they linked the local climate zoning to different mean surface temperature indicators. Fourth, the city calculated the urban heat island intensity using the intra-urban approach. This compares a certain point of the map to the average minimum temperatures of the peripheral not built or natural cover types areas. And finally, Burgas also could interpret the integrated results such as the thermal load within the area. The main conclusions of the work in Burgas will be that integration of methods to study one phenomenon, the relation they made of the urban heat island intensity with the urban fabric, and also how this information is very useful in combination with other data to define both effective short or long-term strategy plans. The second region is Uusimaa in the southern part of Finland. As in the previous case, the region of Uusimaa understood that cities are heating up. They have flooding and vulnerability information, and in the future we'll have heat data, and that makes room for informed decision making with a digital twin. Considering several approaches, they based their research on digital twin and simulations. In this first case, they simulated flooding and other hydrological processes to evaluate, one, the impacts of land use changes, and two, climate adaptation measures. After that, they created this digital twin of the region, developed in order to have an interactive platform that combined heat, flooding, and vulnerability data. As you can see in the video, the resolution of the statistical grids is very high and different indicators are available. If you want to take a look, you just have to register in the link I've put it down there, and you could have a demo as user. The results or the information included in the digital twin of Uusimaa is related with the risk components that are vulnerability, exposure, preparedness, and response. And we can also have combined indexes. So in the zoomed area that I've put here, we have colors for heat vulnerability and height that indicates flood. The digital twin also have information regarding buildings. In this case, we see the land surface temperature that comes from Landsat, and which allows a better resolution and availability. So in this case, we can see also the intra-urban differences. The main conclusions of the work in USIMA might be the integrated simulation tools in a digital twin, that the indicators and analysis are at micro scale level. And this is also important to highlight that further steps are needed. For instance, the development of heat model, but also the validation of the model. So the last one is the case of Pärnumaa in the coastal area of Estonia. The same as in the other cases, cities are heating up. They didn't have studied the urban heat island yet, and they also know that there are vulnerable groups in the city. So that is why they combine 3 methods to develop an analysis and diagnose, which are satellite data, sensor data, and modeled data. In the first case, the weather sensor data, the city deployed 50 sensors that were classified depending on whether they were urban, weather and coast, park, or forest located. They also achieved information from Landsat that was used to calculate the NDVI and the proportion of vegetation. And to gain a more accurate land surface temperature map. This derived in 14 maps of heat conditions between 2013 and 2022. The third method they used was the microscale modeling using the software MBMet. This part of the study was done by Tecnalia, and 4 areas of the city were chosen to study the human thermal comfort. So this means how comfortable or uncomfortable we feel with the temperature around us. And the main results of Pärnumaa. The weather sensor data provided data insights regarding pronounced heat and dry island during summer, with maximum intensity around the city center, which is the red part in the map. For instance, at nighttime sensors showed a large, strong-scale urban heat island connected to urban structures. Satellite data showed small-scale heat patterns dominated by land-use aspects such as parks or the effect of the water bodies. Finally, at microscale level, we presented thermal comfort at 1 meter per 1 meter cells, representing how comfortable or uncomfortable we feel with the weather outside. In this case, we reached to a typical summer day in the city of Pärnu, and we designed for the 4 areas a baseline scenario and one considering future climatic conditions. This was very useful to inform policymakers and urban planners from the city of Pärnu where the main resilience opportunity areas in the city are located. So this means where are the parts of the city that pose heat risk and where to make interventions that include MBS solutions. The experience in Pärnu has many conclusions regarding the 3 different methods, the relation with the urban fabric and the urban heat island intensity, and how each method can be applied in local policies to increase resilience or support informed decisions. So to finish the presentation, I will say some preliminary conclusions of this coordination made by Tecnalia. So we can see here how each method from the 3 regions has the role in the decision-making processes. Apart of traditional method, how new techniques such as the presented in Burgas, Uusima, and Pärnu are used to inform planning. And also one relevant part is the future steps. So these are preliminary conclusions, and we need to further develop our research in each region. Here I wrote the contact details of the people involved in each region and in each part of the research. If you want to know more about the Burgas case, you can contact the Professor Stelian Dimitrov. If you want to know more about the digital twin from Finland, Heli Ponto, about the flat and heat modeling, Lasi Varsta. And in the case of Estonia, this is my email. I was in charge of the microscale modeling, and Andrea Soy was in the part of urban heat island in the region of Pärnumaa. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Adrian and Carmen. We are always happy to hear you and to collaborate with you. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. So now we are moving to questions and answer session. But before that, Agnieszka, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello. I'm Agnieszka from ERRIN, also a partner in Resist. We are the ones responsible for inviting you to this meeting, and we really want to open at this stage of the project, this collaboration with additional regions, local actors, other projects that are also involved in similar activities working on climate resilience. So this is our kickoff. This is our first meeting. There will be more. We really count on exchanges. So today we are doing a short Q&A session to just gather feedback on what are your interests. If you have any questions, clarification, and what would you like to do in the future? If you have any ideas, you can also drop it in the Mentimeter. What are we foreseeing for the next months is to further map, because we're already doing this, other projects and different activities where we can also already see some collaboration opportunities. And then using now also the base that we have of all of the participants to keep inviting you to next activities and do this exchange of mutual learning, trying to see what are the lessons learned already from what we can see and what can be done to benefit both sides. I will show now the Mentimeter because we've got some interesting questions. And I think we can start.
I will start, Agnieszka.
Yes.
Yeah, and I will use my moderator's right to start with the first question, while the others will be handled over by you. So, Scott, the question is for you. What are the challenges and rewards when demonstrating this complex technology for 12 resist regions? Because they have different needs, different characteristics, different experiences, and of course their level of knowledge in digital technologies is very different.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think ultimately we want everyone to embrace the technology. And so we try to reduce the barrier to that, and it's all about education, but in a kind of welcoming format, and so it's not intimidating. Now, the issue is some people will be very technologically advanced. They use software, high-end software all the time, and then the flip side is people who have never touched a graphical digital twin, and we're trying to find that sweet spot between them all. And that's why we brought out the playground scene. It was so people could then play with the tool and get used to it. And obviously we've done workshops at consortium meetings, but I think when people are experiencing the digital twin, it becomes almost overwhelming. And that's why we did the 12-step process to explain people how we'll guide you through from this abstract idea of you have data here, but you don't know how to get into twin. And we work with them in that process. And once we've gone through that 12-step process, they become quite comfortable, and that combined with the playground works very well together, and it gives them a step into the other technologies which are on display today. So ultimately it's all about education.
Thank you, Scott, for your answer. Agnieszka, do we have more questions?
Yes, we do. I will share now the screen because we can see There are actually quite some for Scott. I hope you can see my screen. To Scott again, digital graphical twin is in Resist. It's still under development, but from other experiences, could you share how other tools are received and how such tools are received and used by decision makers for CCI?
Okay, so I take it by that they're talking about the other tools like the virtual reality or the augmented reality in that aspect, and if that's my interpretation of the question. Again, I think people very embrace it. We've had workshops and consortium meetings. We had a fantastic one in Ålesund at our headquarters where people were able to experience all the technologies, and we took surveys and user feedback about what worked, what didn't work, and all the horizontal partners involved in technologies work really closely together to find out what people like and what they don't like. And we try to use all the technologies to feed into each other, so it becomes a positive feedback loop. So if one technology interests users, then they can also be interested in maybe other options for exploring that data that they're interested in.
Okay, thanks. There are more, I think more about the Shepherd. So Kostas, the first two, were 3D visualizations a user requirement? For the planning purposes, 3D is better than 2D. If you get any relevant feedback from the end users. So that's the first one.
Is that for the Shepherd? Because
it came. I think it came during your presentation, but
okay.
Could be me at that point. I mean, I'm
maybe
happy to step in there.
Yeah,
because we're dealing with 3D.
Yeah,
and then I'll see the question below with Digital Shepherd. So 3D visualizations, it's a really good point. Normally people are used to reading 2D maps, and we've found in other research projects when we've compared 3D to 2D that people's grasp of the difficulty of the situations are more easily understood. So, for example, Marco and Danny and have all talked about that aspect of people communicating and understanding the issues. Marco was very clear about his boss was looking at where if his house is affected by flooding, and that's really important. People can really see that. And when we did the demonstration in Eastern Macedonia and Thrace, people were really zooming in and looking at that. And actually what people are looking for is higher fidelity. So obviously we're still on a kind of work in progress at this point, but as we move forward with the rest of the project in the years coming up, we'll be looking at bringing greater fidelity into those models so people can understand better. But that's how we also, as I touched on in my presentation, we try to change the means of the visual communication. So you saw that I was playing around with the different terrain. So sometimes people become overly confused with satellite imagery, and so just going to a simple topographical map helps. Ultimately though, 3D can only include so much information, and sometimes people want to drill down into detail. And from Resist, the feedback we've got is that we want people want to be able to select areas or select objects and get more deeper data on KPIs or other information. So what we're now looking at implementing is bringing in a bit of 2D information, which then amplifies what you're seeing in 3D. So we're trying to make the experience as data dense as possible, but as user friendly and welcoming as possible.
Okay, thank you. And now about the Digital Shepherd, indeed. So something you mentioned is that it will be later open. Would it be open for other regions to use? And is it possible that other project partners could study it sooner?
So I talked about open sourcing, so meaning to the world. And since it's at the prototype stage, we need to like secure it a little bit so that it's from a cybersecurity point of view safe to open source it to the world. Naturally, partners, people in the consortium can get access in it since there is already trust built. So at any point someone wants to study it, just send me like your developer's email account so that I can add you to the repository and have access to the code. Now about the use in your region and opening, that's up to Scott and Vilija how the process goes. But on our side, we have the API. So we have like we have estimated this. We have implemented this action, so it can be used for other regions. In the future.
And then there are two questions about the catalog. So who is the target audience for the CCA measure catalog? And then if it's possible to share the web page for the metadata catalog.
I will start and maybe Vida can add. For the catalog and its content, it's multiple type of users. First of all, of course, we want to open it up so that other local authorities, regions, projects that work on climate change adaptation, etc., can see what is happening and which solutions are implemented where and what are the characteristics. So it's kind of opening up what's happening where so that you should not go to individual websites to find out yourself. Of course, it's also to be used. It's open for other projects, other regions that have similar solutions implemented and that want to showcase their solutions. And there will be throughout the project also a way not only to scrape automatically what's happening in different places, but also to allow other regions, cities, etc., to describe their solutions in the catalog so that their solutions are visible to others. And then, of course, the third type of use will be the shepherd that might connect to the catalog to find back for different solutions how it used certain data sets, etc. And then through the shepherd, feed, in fact, the digital twin. So there is a link between the catalog, the shepherd, and the digital twin, so that we can have this kind of not automatic feeding, but so a guided feeding and filling of the digital twins. That's the main groups, I think. Maybe if Vida has another one, but that's the most important ones.
And then you mentioned, I think you mentioned all, but I need to mention that one of the goal in RESIST is knowledge transfer. So one of the main audience is regions themselves in RESIST, and also the policymaker, local governments, and climate adaptation practitioner working on resilience building activities. So this catalog actually serves as a tool to support decision making in developing and implementing climate adaptation strategies.
And I think you can also answer the other question.
Okay. Regarding the show, it's possible to show web page for metadata catalog. So I need to mention the metadata catalog itself at the time being is like a static form that we use it and we keep updating it currently. But regarding the if you mean visualization tool and graphic user interface, because we use the metadata catalog as a feeding system, as the content of visualization tool. So that one is publicly available. And I mentioned in the last slide, actually, there is a link to the graphic user interface so you can have a look to that, if you want. But I need to mention that it's currently updated because we add new solutions, new data technologies, tools as the regions working on the solution. So it's currently updating, but it's publicly accessible. And maybe Danny, you're gonna add something.
Else. Well, no, I think the information is open. It's meant to be open for anyone in Europe, whatever. And then it should maybe also mention that the code we use to build a system is based on open source technology that was built further upon from another existing EU project and initiative. So also the code in principle is available. It's open source.
And maybe just to add that following this event also, there will be a communication coming, and things that can be shared already will be accessible. So you can follow up on that. There is another question, more to Xavi or Adrian. Can tools that you have been describing be used by municipalities that are not part of RESIST?
Yes, if you want, I can comment about this. I will say that in the case of the early warning system, we are initially testing in 2 municipalities in the Catalonia region. Then we have an upscaling phase on different municipalities and in the twinning regions. And since RESIST it's an innovation action, also the ultimate aim of the project is that everything that is developed is expanded to be used by other regions and other users. So in this sense, we are willing also to, let's say, expand beyond RESIST at the end. Maybe not at this moment because we are now just doing first steps in those municipalities, but for sure in future, we would like to expand the use of these kind of tools to all Europe and to all municipalities. So just contact us and we can see how to do this in future.
Can I add quickly on
yes.
this? Because if we document not only the innovative solutions, but also the data and the tools used for it, usually most of the data is quite open because it's provided by different authorities and so on. So usually this is following under the INSPIRE directive. However, the tools can be very variable. I give one example. In total, in the different regions in the RESIST project, they use 7 different flood modeling tools. And some of these are open source, can be downloaded and used in whatever context, but others are paying resources. So not all the tools described are for free. Maybe the ones that are developed on the RESIST can be, depending on the region and depending on the partner, be for free, but the tools can have different types of licensing. So it depends a little bit. I'll give one example. We use also in KU Leuven for flood modeling Mike, and that's a very expensive tool, but a very advanced one. But there are other open source tools that are maybe more simple, but are free, open source. I mean, and you can just use it.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if Adrian, if you wanted to add something, or was that an answer that?
Yes, here in Tecnalia, we always collaborate with the municipalities that want to know how the comfort or the thermal comfort in the city is. But as Danny said, it's not a free open source because in the part of thermal modeling, we use a software which is a licensed software. But yeah, of course, we collaborate with the municipalities, and we also develop a part of the cartography. We developed a risk assessment or indicators calculation and so on.
Yes, and if I can add something, like we said in the presentation, the methodologies that are being applied and tested by the regions will be available, and also the results and the approaches. So for any other region that would like to do the same thing, of course, adapting it to their own context. So at least the methodologies described in detail will be available.
Okay, great, thank you.
Agnieszka, it is a great discussion. There are a lot of questions. However, the time runs out, so I would suggest taking the last question, actually, before handing over to Catarina for the RESIST Way Ahead presentation.
Exactly. Just wanted to look at the last one for this round. I think it's also a very broad question, and it possibly could be picked up in our future activities, because stakeholder engagement is something that we have been discussing in the project since its start. So there is a question for general RESIST project, how we manage to engage stakeholders and communities, and any challenges. I don't know if there's one person to answer this question. I'm sure we can pick this up in our future activities, but indeed it's something we're looking at. All the regions are working on their own stakeholder engagement.
Marco, would you like to give your view on engagement with policymakers in 1.5 minutes?
Okay, no pressure there. I think we found that the digital twin actually helps with engagement. We found that, for example, Normandy, we had a lot of discussions with the local representatives, and there was a real discussion about the data being shown and addressing how we could do different things. So I think, as it touches into the other questions there about, how is the tool used to represent real life, digital twins, digital shadows, it's all about communication, and it's all about being able to communicate better. And all the technologies here today help that with that communication, because what we're trying to communicate is very complex and it's a very large subject matter. So for us, our digital twins and the other technologies help with that communication.
Marco, would you like to add?
I can add something. We have been working quite a lot with customer journey map or citizen journey map, try to create an interaction with the citizens when the citizens want it and desire it. And that was basically the idea with the climate pop-up tour. So we don't push things to citizens, try to find the best way to create a touch point so they want to interact. And that's basically very, very shortly what we are trying to do. And we have different ideas about that. But I think it's very much about mapping the journey of the citizen to create a rich, full interaction. Otherwise, a very sterile interaction if you don't find them in the right spot in the right time.
Thank you. Thank you for your audience, for your questions, presenters for your answers. And now our last presentation will be made by Catarina from INOVA, Portugal.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can already see my my screen. So yes, in fact, my name is Catarina Pydzinska-Azevedo. Here on behalf of INOVA, the operational coordinator of RESIST, together with SINTEF, co-leading this huge project. So before we close this webinar, let me share a few words as a closing. We had a chance to see today a bit closer several digital and technological solutions that we are developing in the project, but in fact that's just part of it. So what we do, you see it well, okay. What we do from the RESIST perspective, way ahead with what we do, and just to stress also that these technologies and digital solutions, we are not developing them as for technology per se. They're a part of a bigger and like holistic approach. This came up already, the question about citizen engagement. As you have seen, some of these tools are actually used for that purpose, for better engagement with different type of stakeholders, and that has been the stakeholder engagement of different groups, citizens as well, even vulnerable groups, has been a constant concern in the RESIST project, and we do that a lot. We besides digital tools, we also use some analog methods to be really inclusive, because we try not to forget that it has to be really a mix of different approaches and different solutions to bring this transition forward and really enhance climate adaptation and climate resilience in our territories. So this is just a big part of a bigger picture. And in fact, RESIST it's a complex project, as it was mentioned. We're halfway through for its implementation. There's much more still coming up. So far, the demonstrations and like the implementation of solutions has been ongoing mostly in the 4 main regions, which we call large-scale demonstrators. But also the 8 twinning regions has started really putting in practice also different solutions, some of them being transferred from the 4 main regions. So there's much more coming in the 2.5 years still. That's why really those who are interested in what will be still developed, we encourage you to check our website, check our solutions. As part of our methodology, also what Agnieszka mentioned is, for example, the community of interest. So as part of our approach is really this goal of sharing our learnings and our know-how from all the regions and what we are implementing. As already said as well by some colleagues, some of the technologies or solutions might be licensed, might not be open as such for uptake, but our learnings definitely will be shared, and we want to share this know-how. So what I want to, before we close, to encourage you to really check, because this webinar today had very specific focus on digital and technological solutions, but there's much more you can explore what is being developed. Check our YouTube channel for some videos, check our website where there's a lot of material already shared as well, and be much more coming in the years to come. So please follow us on social media as well to be up to date with the new events and webinars and other events that will be coming up. Some of them might be of your interest. For example, this question from Flavia about stakeholder engagement. As we said, this is a horizontal topic, and we will definitely having things and experiences around that shared as well. So please do check and continue engage. Also, there might be a chance for meeting in person. We are planning to be part of several upcoming events already this year. At the Adaptation EU Mission Adaptation Forum in Wrocław, for example, there will be a session where several of regions will be presenting their experiences. We plan to be also at the European Urban Resilience Forum together with our sister project there as well. So for those you coming, might be a chance to engage with us in person as well. And some other events. So please do use other chances. And also, as I said, there might be more questions already from today's presentations. There's not much time to explore of them, but do not hesitate to contact us. We were really open and eager to share and try to answer your questions and inquiries also after this event today. And on behalf of all the Resist partners and our sister project as well, I thank you all for the participation, all the questions that show your interest in our work. That's really satisfying and encouraging us to continue helping and working on climate resilience in different regions in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the large number of attendees who listened to our presentations. Thank you for presenters, and as it was communicated, we are going to make available the recordings, the presentations, and we are looking for further interactions with you. Have a nice afternoon and wonderful upcoming weekend.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.